Wife's shocking business trip secret revealed. My name is Jack Marley, and my wife's name is Anita. In our social circles, my wife is happy to be called Anita Marley, but in a business environment, she prefers Anita Richardson, which is her maiden name. We work for Richardson Holdings, an international company where we are both senior managers. She heads up the contracts department, and I am the production manager. Anita thinks it doesn't hurt her status to remind everyone that she is the boss's daughter. Her father, Atlas, founded the business and is still the CEO. He often jokes that with the name Atlas, he was destined for great things. Thank you for taking the time to meet with me, sir. Jack, you only call me sir in front of other employees who can hear you. But when it's just the two of us, you call me Atlas. After all, you've been my son-in-law for 10 years. If you're uncomfortable saying Atlas, then call me Dad, anything but sir. Okay, Dad. It's just this image makes it hard for me to say Atlas. You know, like a man with the weight of the world on his shoulders. Well, why don't you think of me as someone who's strong enough to carry that weight? That's a good idea. Atlas, then. So, what was the occasion you wanted to see me about? When Anita and I got married, you drew up a prenup. I had to protect her share of the company. That's why I did it. And obviously, if we divorce because of me, I'm in a bind, and rightly so. Please tell me you're not getting a divorce. I paused, not for effect, just to be clearer. I'm afraid we're heading in that direction. Anita never mentioned it, and I'm very sure she would have told me right away. There's a reason she hasn't mentioned it. She doesn't know yet. What is it, Jack? What did you do? I didn't do anything, but she did. You're a good man, Jack, and you've turned out to be a fine manager and a fine son-in-law, so I'm keeping my cool. At this point, I'm pretty sure you're wrong. I realize that, but for what it's worth, I'm surprised too. And I must admit that in a court of law, my testimony would be called circumstantial. Nevertheless, it's very convincing. What's this about? I hope it's not an affair? Unfortunately, that's exactly what it's about. I believe she had sex with Lombardi while she was in Naples. What? With CEO Bonetti? Yes. I'm not saying Anita's sex with Lombardi was the reason the deal was made in our favor. That would be an immoral business practice. Perhaps she was only having sex with him to meet another man outside of our marriage, or for some other reason. Either way, as frustrating as it is for both of us, I'm sure she was unfaithful. Then you must tell me everything you know and everything you suspect. Don't leave out a single detail, no matter how inconclusive. But proceed on the assumption that I don't believe my daughter has done anything wrong. I understand. To finalize the details of our contract with Bonetti, the Italians have invited us to Naples for 3 days and 2 nights. You realize contract isn't the right word for it, Jack. They call it a merger, but really we're buying out Bonetti's share. It's called a friendly takeover. Lombardi himself is resigning. The rest of the employees keep their jobs, and they're all very happy with our deal, too. Yes, I understand what Job Atlas is. It's just easier for me to think of it as a contract, since Anita is, after all, our contract manager. Of course, I was just being pedantic. Going to Naples was part of her job. Go on. We sent Anita and Terrence Green to this show. It was Mr. Green's show, and it could be argued that Anita didn't have to be there. But I understand that her presence was helpful because she speaks fluent Italian. You're right again. Of course, her language skills were honed during our honeymoon. And yes, I remember that you paid for the trip to Rome and Venice as a wedding gift. Go on. The Bonetti Company put them up at the Grand Umberto Hotel. Lorenzo Lombardi stayed at the same hotel for the duration of their visit, as did their contract manager, Romano Mattia. So my first suspicion is, why did they do this? I can understand why they may have wanted to impress us with a luxurious meeting place, but they had no reason to stay in the hotel at the end of their working day. The company is located in the city, so they are local, and they didn't need to stay overnight. Anita told me about their trip and didn't mention a word about sightseeing or evening entertainment. So why were they there? I have to say, I don't consider that any proof, Atlas said. They were our hosts, why wouldn't they stay? Dining with us and drinking with us in the evenings is common business practice, both here and throughout Europe. Besides, these two could live out of town. They can commute weekly and stay in hotels anyway. I agree, but you asked me to lay out all my suspicions, however far-fetched they may be. And circumstantial evidence becomes more and more convincing as the details pile up. I agree. Go ahead. Then there are the hotel's amenities. I read their brochure, and only 2 rooms on the top floor, both overlooking the gardens, have a hot tub. I know what a hot tub is. We have a jacuzzi. Well, Lombardi had one in his suite, I continued. But the other 3 didn't. Their rooms were a floor below. When Anita went back to England, I overheard her talking to a friend on the phone. She said that yes, she had only tried it once, and the hot tub made her feel really sexy. She didn't know I had heard about it, and she later told me that the same friend had just bought a hot tub. But Anita said she had never tried it, and could we please buy it? That's just a rumor. It is, but I'm nervous enough to tell you all this. I have no reason to lie, of course. But Anita lied to me. I'm listening. It also bothers me that Terence Green retired to his room right after they had dinner. Both nights. He left Anita at the bar with 2 Italians. I know he doesn't drink alcohol, but he could have stayed and had non-alcoholic drinks. In fact, he should have. You said yourself that this has always been a common business practice. You spend some time with your client to build a relationship. But if Anita had some kind of personal arrangement with Lombardi, it occurs to me that Mr. Green may have been complicit or even encouraged it. On the face of it, leaving them behind was at the very least rude. Neither you nor I would ever behave in such a manner on a business trip. It very much seems like he was deliberately turning a blind eye. I agree it looks bad, but maybe he wasn't feeling well. Do you really think he could have felt ill both nights in a row at the same time? Did he mention being sick when he came back with the report? Very well. That does seem suspicious. I suppose if this was a police investigation, they would be looking for means, motive, and opportunity. Anita is a very attractive woman, so there's no question of means. I can't think of a motive unless Anita believed that sex with Lombardi would complete the deal or perhaps improve it. And I have to say, I'm not interested one way or the other. If she had sex with Lombardi, whatever the reasons, I want a divorce. And Terence Green, who quietly went to bed early and left them alone together, gave her the perfect opportunity. Both nights. I must admit that in this scenario, her infidelity looks possible, even probable. However, I will disagree on the basis of what has been said. We're talking about my only daughter, and I'd like to think she has a better upbringing. If I have to choose, my loyalty will mean more than my suspicions. And my loyalty belongs to Anita. Remember, their contract manager was there for this too. I understand. I'd probably feel the same way if I had a daughter. Anything else? Yes. There is one thing that seems to tie all my suspicions together. It has to do with their contract manager, who, as you noticed, was also present. I handed him my cell phone. This photo from Romano Mattia was sent to me on Anita's first night in Naples. So, it shows her having a drink with Lombardi. I assume they're toasting the good outcome of the negotiations. Yes, of course they are. But I wonder why Mattia and Green aren't here. I think Mattia was giving me a subtle warning. Perhaps his wife cheated on him in the past and he's expressing his disapproval. His disapproval of what? It's just wine. And they purposely posed for the camera, shaking hands with their right hands and toasting with their left. That's the kind of picture you could put in a local magazine or newspaper. Mattia isn't because he's obviously taking pictures. But look at your daughter's left hand. She's not wearing a wedding ring. Married women don't take off their rings to arrange a friendly takeover. They take them off to appear unmarried, and when they're looking for extramarital sex. Atlas stared at the photo and frowned. I finally laid out the trump card. Now he was having difficulty. But Lombardi could easily have known she was married. Why bother hiding that fact? That's right, especially since the lack of rings is a signal to him. It's a signal that, look, I'm single. Lombardi knows she's married. Without the rings on her finger, he could pretend not to. Perceiving Anita as single would allow Lombardi to stay in his comfort zone. Okay, I'm almost convinced. So what do you want? I mean, if, and I emphasize if, my daughter was unfaithful. You started this conversation by talking about prenups. There's a rumor in the office that you might send Anita to Naples to finalize it. If you do that, my suspicions will be heightened. But whether it's true or not, I want the job. We can start the divorce proceedings here, with the least inconvenience to the company, and I can move to Italy permanently. Out of sight, out of mind, no daily reminders of my daughter's infidelity. You paint an attractive picture, but I can't go that far without hard evidence. You may be out of sight, but my daughter will still be here. She'll know why you got the job, and she'll wonder why I sided with you. I can't get around the prenup and give you what you want unless you present irrefutable proof. She should be back from lunch any minute. I'll present the proof this afternoon, say 3 o'clock. She'll never admit it, Jack. She's tougher than me. Why are we doing this in the conference room? Anita asked. We have an important matter to discuss, I replied, and I don't want anyone to overhear us. Have a seat. Can't it wait until we get home? No, it's urgent. Then hurry up, I have to get back to work. Let's get straight to the point. Did you have sex with Lombardi while you were in Naples? You dragged me out from behind my desk to ask me such a stupid question? No, of course not. Well, given that I had fewer opportunities to go astray than you did, do you think I ever cheated on you? No, do you? Never. Do you believe me? Yes, Jack. I went to Dr. York's clinic this morning with a problem. Turns out I have syphilis, and the only other possibility is that you gave it to me. The silence dragged on for a full minute. Then, oh my God, Jack, I'm so sorry. Was it with Lombardi or Mattia or both? She flinched at the word with both, as I expected. Admitting who it was easier than defending myself against accusations of sex with 2 men. Lombardi. 2 nights? Yes. I assume the cell phone was in his pocket and the whole thing was recorded? Atlas asked. I nodded. But you did lie to her. She lied to me first. I'm not going to fire her, you know that. I never asked for it. Take the rest of the week off and start the divorce papers. I got up to leave, and he pressed the intercom button. Minus Miss Wells, would you please invite my daughter? The end. Subscribe to my channel. Thank you.